Good morning, everybody. It's not raining in Vancouver this morning, so I guess that means we're having good weather. That's what we get these days in Vancouver. Anyway, this morning I am going to be off to, or we are going to be off to meet Tony and see what the Mystery Ferrari is going to be. So hop in, let's go for a ride. The Ferrari 355 was produced between 1994 and 1999. Over 11,000 of these were made. It rides on 225s on the front and 265s at the rear. The body is by famed Italian coach builder Pininfarina. The suspension is adjustable with a comfort and sport setting. The car underwent 1,300 hours of wind tunnel testing. The underbody tray develops downforce at speed. The longitudinally mounted 3.5-liter V8 features 5 valves per cylinder, an 11:1 compression ratio, and forged titanium connecting rods. It produces 375 horsepower at 8250 RPM and 268 foot-pounds of torque. 0 to 60 comes in 4.7 seconds and the quarter mile in 12 seconds. The top speed is 183 miles per hour or 295 kilometers per hour. By the way, folks, this is Tony, the owner of this car.
Hello.
And hi, Tony, and
Hello.
Thank you so much for showing us your lovely
I'm just
F355.
I'm just wiping all the dust off.
Oh, you were saying that because you've got all this excellent cooling here, because these are basically open, this
open
mesh.
Air, yeah, the open air.
You're going to get rain, you're going to get dust.
So
coming
lots
in,
of
right?
dust and dirt and rain and
Yeah.
everything gets onto the engine. If you're driving in the rain, the rain can be pouring. That's why they've got this shield here. I have one for the other side, but I haven't.
This one over here.
Yeah.
That's a shield, right?
It's a shield to cover the electrics, right?
Okay, right.
But I had the other one, but I leave it off because sometimes if you have to jump start the car, then you have to be able to get to those bolts there. So I tend to leave that shield off on the right hand side. Most people seem to leave it off.
So now here you've got some ceramic coated headers.
Yes, ceramic coated headers. They're stainless steel.
Who are they made by? The Capristo or?
Capristo, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah. They're really expensive. And
They're not original headers, right? They're aftermarket.
And then I got Chubby exhaust, Chubby muffler.
Oh, right.
Under here, under this.
Did you put that one on?
No, it was all like
all
that
on?
when I bought
Okay.
it. You know, no expense was spared. They even had special silicone pipes here that I've had taken off because I wanted to bring it back to original appearance.
Oh, so wait a minute. This is original.
This is
OEM?
original.
Okay, right. And
But the car came with red ones that were made out of silicone.
Oh, I see.
And these were all red. This
Yeah.
was red. This was red. And they were made out of silicone, and they were designed to have no ribs in them, so it didn't interrupt the airflow. It was a kind of theoretically designed to increase airflow, but of course that's a load of bull. I'm sure of it. You know.
So
They just wanted to find things for people to spend money on.
original painting. It says here PPG. Colore is grigio titanio 3238.
That's the color of it.
Yeah, very nice. And this must be quite light, I imagine. Oh, this doesn't weigh anything. Oh my God, that is so cool. Yeah.
The car doesn't weigh anything at all. It's when I put my
32.
foot on the brake,
Yeah.
it feels like there's no resistance at all to the braking.
Well, it's got some stout brakes, and it's about 3,200 pounds, I believe.
Is it 30,
yeah,
3200?
yeah. It's actually not far off.
That's normal. That's normal for a tuned sports car.
It's actually mine weighs a little bit more, but they're in the same ballpark.
Yeah. They've spent a lot of money on it, putting extra stuff in, with the 2B exhaust, the stainless steel exhaust. And it's got the cross-drilled brakes, which is an extra.
Are those like an add-on? Those weren't factory.
No, they're factory, but it's an extra. It's, this badge here.
Yeah.
It's set into the fender. And that makes it quite special because that is quite an expensive extra when you order that from the factory. Because some of them don't have that. The badge is just stuck onto the side of the fender. But here it's the fender specially stamped.
So what's the startup procedure here?
Okay, key in ignition.
All right.
Turn it on. Press the alarm button so that you see the. Right. Then it goes fast blinks. That means it's disarmed. Okay. Now you got to wait for the pump. There's a pump for the gearbox. Oh. You got to wait for that to.
Oh, the F1 gearbox.
Yeah,
of course.
You have to wait for the F1 gearbox to initialize. Yeah. So that the oil pressure has to build up. So that it blinks until that happens, and then you press both things to go into neutral.
I heard that.
I'm in neutral.
Noise at the back, and now there's a pump running. I heard.
Now
something.
I can start the car. Ready?
Yes, sir. Now this is a dry sump 3.5 liter 8-cylinder engine.
3.5. Yeah, the 355 denotes it's the 3.5 is the 3.5
liters, yep.
And the second 5 is the fact that it has 5 valves per cylinder.
Right, of course.
And the 5 valves per cylinder apparently is the design that gives the 355 its quasi Formula 1 racing car sound. The old racing cars that used to scream up to 17,000 RPM, this car only goes to 8,500 RPM, but it has the same quality of sound as the old Formula 1. It's supposed to be the closest sounding to the old Formula 1 cars.
I agree that it is an amazing sound, this one.
Okay, now we just go like that as any car, and then and I've got a sport mode here.
Oh, okay.
For the gearbox, for the clutch, and the reason I use sport mode is because the clutch changes are quicker, and therefore there's less wear on the clutch.
There's less wear.
Less wear on the clutch.
Quicker, it just bangs into gear.
It bangs into gears.
So are you in second gear right now?
You're in second gear.
And how many revs we got going? About 2,500-ish.
It's got quite hard suspension. I'm going into third gear now.
Okay.
See, it doesn't bang like modern. See, I bottomed out then.
Yeah. That was your front spoiler? Your chin?
Yeah.
Chin spoiler?
Yeah, see, I bottomed out and there wasn't even a...
Well, this is a very low car. So, tell me a little bit about this car and how you came to find it and what made you want to have one.
Well, they always say when you buy a Ferrari that you should have it checked over by a mechanic and have a leak down test and a pre-purchase mechanical check. And the leak down test is to test whether the cylinders are in good condition or not, where there's good seal. But I've never done that with any of my cars. I'd always gone by gut feeling. And I'm a kind of a bottom feeder in a way, because most of the cars I buy, I've bought them at times when no one else has been interested in them. And this car was a case in point where I bought
about the mechanical thing that you were discussing.
Yeah, when you have the cars serviced, it can be expensive, and there's one reason for that, and that's because these cars up to 2004, 2005 variants of the Ferrari cars, they had a rubber belt that controlled the overhead camshaft, like a fiber belt, and this belt was, people say, well, you know, this belt can break. Unfortunately, these cars have what is known as an interference engine, where if the valve comes down and the piston goes up at the same time, the piston will meet the valve and break the valve. That's the interference I'm talking about. So if the belt broke, the valve would stop moving and the pistons would carry on going up and down, and they'd smash the engine to pieces. So they frighten the life out of people by saying, oh well, you should have, in order for this not to happen, you should have the belts changed every 3 years. Well, that's a bit ridiculous, because you know, some Hondas have belts in them and the owners don't even know. 200,000 miles later, they still don't know that they've got rubber belts in them. And Ferrari says 3 years whether you drive the car or not, so you could put new belts on, spend $10,000–$15,000. Oh, and by the way, in order to have new belts on these cars, the engine has to come out, because there's no room between the engine and the gas tank to work on the front end of the engine. So,
right.
So the engine actually has to come out. That's where all the expense is, in removing the engine and replacing the belts. And then of course they always say, the mechanic will always say, well, since we're taking the engine out, we may as well replace all the other things that need replacing that can only be replaced when the engine's out, like replacing the oil, the water pump, for example, and the other belts and the other working belts on the car. And so the expense just goes up and up and up. So you could easily spend $15,000, and if Ferrari had their way, that would happen every 3 years. But in actual fact, these cars can survive without a belt change for much longer than that. And I would leave my cars at least 5 to 6, maybe even 7 years without a belt change.
And you can probably look at the condition of the belt, right?
No, you can't. That's the trouble.
Oh, you can't. Okay.
You can't.
Okay.
And you know, it's okay. The people that know a little bit about it and say, look, Ferrari are a little bit exaggerating here, but there is a problem. But it's not with the belts. It's with the belt tensioner. There's a bearing that leans against the belt to keep it tight, and it's that bearing that can get stuck and can freeze. And if that happens, then the belt will certainly fail. It's very often the bearing, the tensioner bearing, that is the culprit. And of course, again, the engine has to come out to replace the tensioner bearing. But people like me that have too many cars, so that I can only drive about maybe 2,000 kilometers a year in this particular car, I'm not really concerned about belts and tensioners, because they're certainly not getting the wear that they would get on a normal car.
Tony, give it a bit of beans up this hill. This is a good hill to...
All right, okay. When am I going up first?
Let's hear this old girl.
Today's standard, that's not outrageous. I mean, my BMW M4 does it in 3.9 seconds.
Here we are in lovely Horseshoe Bay. Just sitting down to lunch.
With my water and 4 wedges of lime.
Which she was very kind to bring. Yes, this is Troll's restaurant in Horseshoe Bay, and highly recommend it if you're in the area here. It's quite scenic, as you can see behind me.
Yeah, look at
This
that
is a
view.
ferry terminal at Horseshoe Bay here, and there's a nice marina. There's also a restaurant there. But yes, a nice way to spend a little time after driving around.
And you get oysters down here too.
Oysters.
Bar there.
Oh yeah. I haven't been there. Anyway, so thumbs up. We're gonna have lunch.